So there are a good amount of video games coming out later this year that I'm interested in, if you'd believe it, more than a handful. And I decided I would just kind of discuss those games to the wonderful Rush Cyberfunk, which is one of the coolest games ever, by the way. This is like a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio, and it's the closest thing that we can get right now to playing Jet Set Radio, except on PC, I guess. But speaking of, there is a remake of Jet Set Radio coming out. Maybe it's just a remaster, and I'm very excited for that too, but that's next year, maybe. So, the first game I am definitely looking forward to that comes out later this year, one of my favorite games of all time. Actually, it's bundled in a collection, and I'm very excited for it, very hotly anticipating the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is like my second favorite game of all time, and the idea of being able to play Marvel 2 on modern systems with rollback netcode is really, really sweet. I don't think there's crossplay, but no big deal. Obviously, there's more than just Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Oh, here's the crew, by the way. Really cool. You're hanging out with all the crew. Very nice. Anyway, there isn't any crossplay. Maybe it'll get added in later. I don't know. But either way, it includes like X-Men Children of the Atom, like Marvel Superheroes, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, X-Men, I think it's Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, then Marvel 1, Marvel 2, and then The Punisher, which, The Punisher is the odd one out, but that's a cool game too. I just love Marvel 2, and I'm glad it's free from its copyright limbo and whatnot. So I'm definitely excited for that. You're going to see a lot of Sentinel gameplay later on, maybe Storm too, so get ready for that. Next up is a enhanced port of an older game. Now, the games in Marvel Collection are well over 20 years old. But now we're going to get into Clock Tower, which is a game that I think is 30 years old. So Clock Tower was released, I think, 93, 94 for the Super Famicom. It was never officially released in the United States. There was a PlayStation version, but if I remember correctly, it was a different game. But Clock Tower Rewind is an enhanced port. You can play the original game as it is. It's a point-and-click survival horror game. You play as Jennifer, and there's also an enemy named the Scissor Man, who is actually one of my favorite enemies in like horror game history. He's pretty cool. And the enhanced version, I think they call it the Rewind mode, has like animated cutscenes and all that stuff. So it's not just a port. There's new stuff being added, and there might be some additional extras. So that's really cool. And I love Clock Tower, and I'm glad that it's actually officially getting a United States, like, or North American release, I should say. There have been some, like, fan translations that have been made, like some ROM hacks and whatnot, but definitely excited to see Clock Tower return. Next up, we have the Until Dawn remaster. Now, there are a lot of remasters recently and into the near future. It's just the times that we're living in. A lot of games are being remastered. But I really don't think that Until Dawn needed a remaster. I do think it's a little strange that it's getting one in the first place. But either way, we are having a remaster of Until Dawn come out later this year, maybe like October-ish. The game was only 9 years old. It was originally released on the PlayStation 4. I think it was an exclusive on the PlayStation 4. But there's actually new stuff being added. Like, obviously, it's going to get a graphical facelift. You're going to get like 4K, 60 FPS, all that stuff. Seeing Emily in 4K wouldn't be too bad. I guess like Rami Malek to Krista's glasses. But I really do love Until Dawn. It's a great game. But I really don't feel like the the remaster was necessary. But there is like a third-person camera being added, which I think is really cool. But you have to give people a reason to care about the remasters, especially because the original game is only like $20. It's still available and whatnot. So I'm just curious as what the price point is going to be. Like, I can't imagine they would sell it for like 60, maybe 40 USD is what the price is going to be. I can't imagine you would actually sell that game like any more than what the original is. I guess maybe 30 or 40. But anyway, I love Until Dawn though, so I'll definitely be playing it when it comes out. It may not be on the top of my priority list, but I'll definitely play it. Next up, we have a remake that I'm very excited for. So it's a remaster. Originally, it was supposed to be a remake, but now it's just simply a remaster. It's Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. When I was younger, 12 years old, back when Lollipop Chainsaw like first came out, I thought it was like the funniest game ever. I was completely infatuated with it. I thought the interactions between Juliet and Nick were so funny. And I was watching any YouTube video I could find about the game. And now it's getting remastered, and I'm very excited because I love Lollipop Chainsaw, and I'm glad I'll be able to play it again because I haven't played it since the old PS3 days. So that's nice. But I should preface that, like, the game is a remaster, not a remake. Originally was supposed to be. But there's a new repop mode, which I think does tone down the violence a little bit. But that's not a big deal, whatever, because you can play the game as it originally was. So that's nice. Next up, we have Sonic X Shadow Generations. Or maybe it's Sonic Cross Shadow, Sonic and Shadow, but there's an X, like whatever. The play is Vinyl. She's really cool. I think she's a skateboarder, if I remember correctly. But anyway, next up is Sonic and Shadow Generations. Be very cautious on the internet when you search Sonic X Shadow, because you might get some interesting information. So, the Sonic Generations originally came out, I think, around 2011. It was released around the same time that Sonic Colors was. And Sonic Generations is actually one of the better modern Sonic games. I think Generations is a great game, too. Sonic Generations has classic and modern Sonic, hence the name Generations. And it's, as I said, one of the better modern Sonic games. I'm very excited to play it again, especially now because Shadow is a playable character. And that's really cool. I love Sonic the Hedgehog. The Blue Man is cool with me. So I definitely, absolutely will be playing it. I haven't played Generations, as I said, since like the PS3 days. But I really did like Generations, so that's nice. I've noticed a lot of these are remasters or remakes, which, as I said, just a sign of the times, I guess. Next up, we have the Ace Attorney Investigations Collection, more so an enhanced port. There are 2 games in the Ace Attorney Investigation series, and you play as Miles Edgeworth. Of course, he was like the main antagonist of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney's first episode. The second was Von Karma. I believe the third was Godot. But I love the Ace Attorney games. Miles Edgeworth is a really, really interesting character. Of course, my favorite Ace Attorney character ever is Von Karma. And thankfully, Von Karma is in Ace Attorney Investigations. She's much younger in that one, though, because, as I said, it takes place before you play as Miles Edgeworth. It takes place before Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. And you might remember Phoenix Wright from, like, Marvel 3. These Capcom games, you know. But as I said, though, I love Ace Attorney. I definitely will be playing those games. I remember the Ace Attorney Investigation series did have, like, some side-scrolling stuff, like walking around, which I always thought was really cool, so I understand some people might not really care about Ace Attorney, but I love Ace Attorney, so I'm definitely excited for that. And plus, Capcom has done a really nice job the last few years or so of releasing collections of the Ace Attorney's games. So there's Ace Attorney Chronicles, then there's like the original Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney trilogy. There's one more that recently came out, and I can't remember what the name was. Apollo Justice, I believe. But yes, I love Ace Attorney. I think it's the Apollo Justice collection. But Ace Attorney Investigations is really nice. They announced it the same day as the Marvel collection, actually, so... Next up, we have a survival horror game. This time it actually is a proper remake. It's the Silent Hill 2 remake. You may have been able to gauge, and I'm quite a fan of survival horror. And Silent Hill 2 remake is very similar in vein to the Resident Evil remakes that Capcom have been absolutely smashing out of the park recently. Resident Evil 2 remake, 4 remake are incredible. I like the 3 remake. I get that people don't like it, but I think it's nice. Obviously, the quality isn't as high as 2 or 4 or whatnot, but I'm a little finicky on the Silent Hill 2 remake. Obviously, the original game is a classic, no doubt about it, but I'm a little shaky on exactly how the game's going to be. The game looks pretty good based on trailers, and I understand that they're trying to go for that Resident Evil remake kind of vibe, but I will be checking out Silent Hill 2. It's a classic, and I just hope the gameplay is really good. That's all I hope. Next up, we have another Capcom game, and it's a remaster. Wouldn't you know? It's the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. I have played the Dead Rising games. Very, very cool games. If you like the idea of running around in an abandoned mall dressed up as a cheerleader throwing TVs at zombies, Dead Rising is the game for you. You can even dress up as Cammy in one of them. I've played every Dead Rising game except, I think, Dead Rising 4. I've never played that one. Of course, you play as Frank West in Dead Rising. You might remember him from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. He takes pictures of you and levels up because he's also a photographer, like a photojournalist or something like that. It's actually a proper remaster of the first game, brand new graphics and all that stuff, but I'd imagine everything else is more or less the same. Maybe there's some quality of life changes, because I know that other games have quality of life changes, such as like Clock Tower. I think is going to have, like, you know, the old usual quality of life changes, but I really do like the Dead Rising series. It's quite goofy zombie games, like obviously in the like late 2006 like maybe early 2010s, late 2000s, early 2010s, zombie games were like all the rage, especially Telltale's Walking Dead, The Last of Us, which technically is more cordyceps than zombies, I guess. But obviously, The Walking Dead, the TV show, ignited the popularity of zombies. But truthfully, there's always been zombie stuff. Like, Dead Rising is much more similar to like Dawn of the Dead, because like you're in a, speaking of malls, because like you're in an abandoned mall, right? Or a mall that was run down because of zombies and whatnot. But yes, I love Dead Rising, very goofy. I definitely will be playing it. I guess I'll play the originals first, though, like again, just as more sort of a refresher. But those games are really cool. And then lastly, there's only one more game on the list, and that is Life is Strange Double Exposure. I spent a good part of June actually playing through the Life is Strange games, partially because I wanted to, because Double Exposure was just announced, but mostly because they were available like for free on the PlayStation Plus catalog. So, well, technically not free, but you get what I mean. They were available through the Plus catalog. So I actually really enjoyed the Life is Strange games, and there's a trend in there where the games will introduce new characters, new settings. Look at me and my crew hanging out. Nice. But anyway, Life is Strange takes place like in a small town in like the northwestern United States. I can't remember exactly what the island was called, but you played as Max Caulfield, and like Chloe Price was like the second most important character in the story. And then Before the Storm is actually a prequel to Life is Strange. It focuses on Rachel Amber and Chloe Price before Max returned to go to like the art school she was going to, or this college she was going to, Blackwell Academy, I believe was what it was called. And then Life is Strange 2 introduced the Diaz brothers, Sean and Daniel. And then, though they actually went on a journey from the United States to Mexico, so there were different locations. And then True Colors focuses on Alex Chen, and that takes place in another like small town, northwestern United States. But it's new characters, new cities, stuff like that, so there's new locations. But now Double Exposure is actually reintroducing Max Caulfield into the franchise as the main character, which is really cool. And I'm definitely looking forward to that. So those are a simple list of games that I am mostly looking forward to later this year. Some of them have release dates, some of them come out September, October, some of them, like Marvel Collection, the Marvel Collection I should say, don't have a release date just yet. It just says 2024, but those are games that I'm hotly anticipating that are coming out this year, and that's really cool. Oh, speaking of really good remasters, you should please check out the Beyond Good and Evil remaster. That one's really nice too. That came out like last year, I think, but it's a very, very good remaster of a cult classic. So those are the games I am hotly anticipating, and I'll leave it with, let's do some locking up here. Very cool.